Throughout the movie Get Out, audiences across the globe are introduced to a flashback of United States history. Jordan Peele uses the platform of cinema to discuss past and present racism African Americans face. Through Get Out, audiences are introduced to present-day racism in the real world. Get Out demonstrates a type of fantasy film mixed with reality by showing different Americans being hypnotized and auctioned off as slaves in a present-day context. Jordan Peele brings in fantasy by the way these certain people are hypnotized. First, it starts when Chris Washington, a young black man, is dating a white woman named Rose Armitage. Rose then proceeds to introduce Chris to her family, who seem to live in the middle of nowhere. From there, Rose introduces him to her mother and father. In this part of the movie, Jordan Peele shows the vision of past African American cinema known as blaxploitation. Blaxploitation is defined as the exploitation of African Americans and shows the stereotyping of black people through cinema. In this scene, Rose's father, Dean, extends his greetings to Chris, trying to use what is stereotyped as black slander. Here's a short clip of the scene.
So how long has this been going on, this thing? How long?
Words such as this thing to label Chris and Rose as a couple indicate how Dean is trying to relate to Chris through stereotypical language. Another scene in which blaxploitation is used is shown through when Chris meets the only other black man at the Armitage House gathering. Chris had gone up to the only other black man at the gathering. Chris introduces himself by using his stereotypical language by saying, "Good to see another brother around here." From here, the other man introduces himself by using language much too proper for that type of situation. Confused in which way he speaks, Chris is later contemplating the differences in which the way him and so-called Logan King speak. Also, as Rose introduces Chris to different people, they start to try to relate to Chris by somewhat talking about the black culture and using stereotyping. Take a look.
This is Nielsen and Elisa.
Hey, how you doing?
So, how handsome is he?
Are you handsome?
Okay.
Oh.
Not bad. Hey, Nielsen? So, is it true? Is it better?
Wow.
Fair skin has been in favor for the past, couple of hundreds of years. But now the pendulum is swung back. Black is in fashion.
Pardon me, I'm gonna take some pictures.
Sure thing.
Good to see another brother around here.
Yes, of course it is. Something wrong?
There you are. Do something with this.
Yes.
Oh, hello. I'm Philomena, and you are
Chris, Rose's boyfriend.
fantastic. You two make a lovely couple.
Thanks.
Where are my manners? Logan King. Chris was just telling me how he felt much more comfortable with my being here.
That's nice. Logan, I hate to tear you away, dear, but the Wincots were asking about you.
Well, it was nice to meet you, Chris. Goodbye.
In this scene, Peele introduced different dialogues in a confrontation. He showed the differences in which the white woman wanted Logan to speak compared to Chris's stereotyped black dialogue. These are just some of the many examples blaxploitation is used throughout the movie Get Out. What also separates Get Out from prior black cinema is how Jordan Peele used fantasy type of scenarios to relate it to slavery. Peele introduced Rose's mom as a hypnotist that can get rid of any type of addiction there is. For example, her mother Missy had used the prior tactic on her own husband to get rid of a cigarette addiction. In the future, Chris one night goes outside for a smoke and notices Missy sitting in the chair mixing her tea with a spoon. She sits Chris down and uses the noises of the tea and the spoon to hypnotize him and put him in the so-called sunken place. From here, Chris loses full control of his body and is unable to obtain his personality again. The next day, Chris wakes up without the addiction to cigarettes, and it plays out to just be a bad dream. Later in the film, Missy hypnotizes him again for the sole purpose of making him into a slave and to be auctioned off to another person, just like Logan King was. Peele used the sunken place as an example to show the control another human had over another in the prior history and the types of ways they would make a slave act. Peele mixed fantasy with reality in the aspect it relates it to African American history and what types of racism we experience today and through a current separation we have in our country. Here, we are able to relate it to the types of realities through the reading The Manifest Aesthetics of Pan's Labyrinth. In this reading, author Kam Hai-Tzu discusses the projection Hollywood cinema uses through liberal and tolerant social institution. This reading can be interpreted as how Hollywood displays a break free from society kind of feel and give the audience a different view on life. In this cinema, audiences are able to relate to a different culture and are introduced to a fantasy side of history that relates to the reality of society and our history as a country. Overall, Peele introduces audiences across the globe to a present-day type of blaxploitation. Peele is able to show the importance of African Americans in cinema to display the history of our country and relate it to the present day. Jordan Peele releases this movie in a time period of separation through politics and uses the platform of cinema to introduce audiences to the stereotyping of African Americans in the real world and uses it through his movie.